But let's talk about more woke madness now. The Sun newspaper report that pub bosses fear they could have to hire banter bouncers to police boozy chats under proposed laws. Rules to protect workers from being harassed may give them the right to sue if jokes or comments they hear offend them. An update to the Equalities Act aims to stop people getting abused at work, piling extra rules onto bosses to try to stamp it out. But critics say it will leave punters unable to shout at the telly or crack a joke with their mates without putting landlords at risk of being sued by upset staff. This story would be hilarious if it wasn't so troubling. So let's speak to free speech champion, the founder of the Free Speech Union, no less, Toby Young. Toby, is this story for real?
It is for real. It's incredible because Rishi Sunak, when he was campaigning for the leadership last summer, said that we needed to do something about the Equality Act because it was responsible for so much woke nonsense. Well, he's doing something about the Equality Act, but he's going to make the woke nonsense 10 times worse. So what this proposed change to the Equality Act will mean is that at the moment, employers are only liable if one of their employees is harassed by another employee. What this change will mean is that if an employee is harassed by a third party they come into contact with in the course of their work, a member of the public, a customer, they'll also be able to sue their employers. And we know from employment cases in the employment tribunal that if a worker overhears a remark that they find offensive made by one of their colleagues, they can successfully sue their employer for harassment if they feel upset in virtue of one of their protected characteristics. So what this extension means is that if a barmaid overhears a couple of customers telling a dirty joke, she'll be able to sue her landlord, her boss. And in order to mitigate against the financial risk associated with this new liability, publicans will have to employ banter bouncers to police the conversations of their customers, to make sure they don't say anything likely to offend any members of their staff. And it's not just pubs, it also applies to football stadiums. If a football fan shouts at a linesman who he thinks has made a poor decision...
Which is part of the pleasure of going to a football match.
Which is part of the fun of going to a football match. If a football fan shouts, "Are you blind?" to the linesman, and there's a partially sighted steward employed by the football club who overhears that comment, they could then sue the football club for harassment. And in order to prevent that, they're going to have to police what fans say to an even greater extent than they do at the moment. It'll apply to hotels. You know, a woman will not be able to go into a hotel wearing a T-shirt saying adult human female because some of the hotel staff, if they're trans, might legitimately claim that they feel harassed by that comment and be able to sue their employers. So the hotels will have to make sure that no gender-critical feminists likely to wear T-shirts like that refuse to use the preferred gender pronouns of their trans or non-binary staff are admitted to the hotel. It'll mean that we never get through to a person when we call up a bank or the local authority because, you know, the way to protect themselves, what employers will do is they'll stop people in these customer-facing roles dealing with members of the public. It'll lead to... I talked to someone in the hospitality trade. What does it mean for your business if you're going to become liable for harassment if one of your employees feels harassed by a comment made by a customer? He said it'll accelerate automation. We'll just replace the wait staff, the people serving, with robots. Is that what we really want? Is that what this government's trying to achieve?
And also a Stasi-like culture in which your conversations are being listened into. There was that legislation in Scotland, the hate crime legislation, that potentially allowed somebody to get arrested for making a crude joke at home in the privacy of their own four walls. I mean, that's the direction of travel. The Free Speech Union is fighting this all the way.
The Free Speech Union is fighting this. I mean, we are arguing to the government that at the very least there needs to be a proper consultation. There needs to be some proper scrutiny of this major change to the Equality Act. The Equality Act, which was passed by Labour in 2010, has had far-reaching consequences across every workplace in the country. It's poisoned the atmosphere in many workplaces. It's why, you know, members of staff are told they have to do unconscious bias training courses, why more and more words and phrases are banned in the workplace all the time, why it's now more or less mandatory in some workplaces to declare your gender pronouns and use your colleagues' preferred gender pronouns. That poison is now going to spread to bars and hotels and football grounds and nightclubs. I mean, This is a major change to the law, but it's being brought through in the form of a private member's bill. A private member's bill being brought by a Lib Dem MP, which is being supported by the government. No real scrutiny. This is going to happen under the radar. And suddenly we're going to wake up and find every time we go to the pub, every time we go to a restaurant, every time we go to a football ground, we're going to be policed and controlled. And, you know, if you say to the ref, are you blind? If you tell a dirty joke in a pub, you'll face a lifetime ban.
Yes, I'd love to verbally abuse you now just to exercise my free speech, but you're far too brilliant. You're far too clever and you're far too important in this country. You are, of course, the founder of the Free Speech Union. My thanks to Toby Young.